But more interestingly, this active dreaming sleep, I'm not sure about the quality, but at least the intensity gets higher towards the end of the night. When we don't allow people to go there, we notice that they suffer in what we call creativity. I'm not talking about painting, it could be painting, but you'll know in psychology when we're talking about creativity, we're talking about solving ambiguous problems. In an ideas economy, that's most of our jobs. A good night's sleep with some good intensity of dreaming in there is critical. Secondly, though, are not the circadian rhythms, but these 90-minute cycles during the day where brain activity changes because of testosterone and cortisol changes, called ultradian rhythms. This is the notion that you can't maintain some sort of peak concentration. You're going to come in and out. If you don't, and you try and go hard all morning, that curve's going to go to custard in the afternoon. Not only is it going to custard, but you're going to feel like eating custard or salt and vinegar chips or something because cortisol goes way up. And you get that 2 o'clock effect. You familiar with that? Peanut slab, salt and vinegar chips, Mars bar. Anyone done that? Yeah, everyone. Okay. So and I hear this thing about, I went hard out. I worked 10 hours yesterday, and I did 12 hours here, and I did this, and it's just a load of bullshit. You're not actually capable of doing that as a human. You've got 4 or 5 good peak concentration hours in you, if that, and that's the reality of it. And when you try and come out, don't do that. All biology goes to custard. I also seem to, in this business sector stuff, get asked all the time to talk about stress. We suffer stress in this organisation. Stress is bad. Stress is something that which we want to eliminate from around here. Stress is not something we want. And meantime, of course, I'm thinking along this principle. Stress is good. Not only is stress good, stress is essential for a happy and healthy life. And I want to first of all explore that because stress develops resilience. You can't develop resilience by going to a resilience seminar. You only develop resilience by experiencing stress and then recovering from that stress. And the best way to think about it, if you've ever, I don't know if anyone does any running here, but I like to run. And when you run, say you've done a half marathon, you might do something like this. This is training for a half marathon. Your fitness is here. You think, I've got to do this half marathon I've entered. I better get my money's worth. So you start running for training. Good idea? People done that? Yep, okay. You go for a week or so and you discover after a week of training you're actually slower than when you started. I've been training for a week and I'm slow. I'm slower. So what you do, of course, is performance is fitness minus fatigue. You've developed some fitness, but you're quite fatigued. So you rest up and you recover. That adaptation is called supercompensation. You see the principle here? Stress is essential. Recovery from that stress is equally essential. And that curve will just keep going up. And in fact, most of the improvements in endurance performance over the last 30 years aren't from more training, but from better recovery. So you'll see me wearing my little tights underneath, the compression tights and the ice baths and the protein and the carbohydrate, that's what we do. But you might do this, and this is quite common. You might go, well, some training's good, more must be better. So you go into this state called overtraining. And you usually get sick or injured somewhere around here, and then even after extended time off, you're only as fit as you were when you started. So all that training amounts to nothing. Here's the cardinal sin. It's called burnout. And it goes something like this. More training's good, more's even better, and I read about Lance Armstrong on the internet. So I'll just do what he does. And of course, you can't. So you eventually get really sick and really tired and really injured. And then after an extended break, you're worse than when you started. So let's just translate that back into stress and resilience and wellness and flourishing. Stress is essential because it allows us to develop resilience. Resilience is essential because stuff happens in life. That's a normal, fulfilled life for the ups and downs. There's types of people that are stressed out, and I'm thinking of the old lady next door to us, because she suffers no stress. Her rubbish bin wasn't collected the other week, and it was a major drama for everyone concerned, especially her. There's another group, which is a lot of people in the workforce. They're suffering normal stress. What they're not doing is allowing appropriate recovery. This stress is essential stress. It's good stress. It's part of a happy and fulfilled life, but they're not taking appropriate recovery strategies. Just like the athletes do. The working athlete, if you like, needs the breaks during the day, needs the time out at night, the email and the cell phone off, the weekends, the vacations, and so on and so forth. And I think that's a really important principle that we often overlook in flourishing, is that we talk about stress as being something bad. Stress, for the most part, can be perceived the other way around as being an essential part of life. There's a third group, of course, that's suffering stress that they can't cope with. There's actually a law against that in New Zealand workplaces, and outside of that we do need to deal with that and take it seriously. The final brain rule is called excited. The lay term for that is your brain hates boring stuff. And it comes really out of, because what's really popular for me at the moment is people ask me to talk about happiness. And I'm happy to talk about happiness, except what worries me about that is it implies that happiness is a state that we're after, and the opposite of happiness, sadness, is something we should be trying to avoid as humans. And I completely reject that. And I've heard as much this morning from people in the audience, and I appreciate that. Happiness and sadness are both part of a fulfilled life. What is it we're after then? And I think it might be something called excitement, because the opposite of excitement is boredom. And boredom's a waste of everyone's bloody time. It's boring. That's how it got its name. And and it's excitement we're after. And it doesn't matter what it is that excites you. I mean, does anyone actually collect stamps here? Karen used to, and someone else would like to. Well, that's interesting, and no one does. As a matter of fact, I think it's downright boring. But if you think it's exciting, that's great. My brother is 40. He collects Smurfs. Do you remember these? Does anyone have any? Oh, other collectors, you could trade them. Yeah, there's Papa Smurf. There was only ever one woman Smurf. That's what worried me. Lots of blokes. Yeah, Smurfette. But he's into it. Personally, I like wearing Lycra. Any guys still wear Speedos? No? You don't? You still into Speedos? No. Okay. But it doesn't matter. I mean, for me, Lycra is about getting out and competing and being outside, running, cycling, and swimming. I really like that. So it's not just about modelling in front of the mirror, although that is fun. Yeah. Okay, excitement. If you take nothing else away from my talk, I'd like to have this little tool. It's a thought experiment. In the thought experiment, there's two flavours you can take depending on your disposition. The first flavour is you put in a lottery ticket and you independently win the first division and it's some mega jackpot, and you're now independently financially whatever. And the question is, what things do you now stop doing? And you might go, well, this, definitely that's been pissing me off, this and that. And what things will you start doing? Well, this, always wanted to do that, and that. Well, and then you need to say to yourself, well, first of all, if you look at that hand and go, oh shit, that's my whole life, that's probably not good. The other question you might ask yourself is, why aren't you doing some of these things now? And the answer often is, well, mate, I've got a mortgage, a family, I've got financial constraints here. And that is a partial answer, but it's not the whole answer, because the brain hates boring stuff, and it's excitement we're after, not boredom. And that's the journey.